The NeighborWorks program has been instrumental in helping us buy our first home and find a place to put our family as it has grown. Without the home ownership program, NeighborWorks, we would not be owning a home probably for many, many years.
The initial challenge was we wanted to start a family, and it meant for us, Christina staying at home once Calvin was born, our firstborn. And so we didn't know how we were going to come up with a down payment and have one income. We initially started looking at homes in our price range, and there were several, but a lot of them ended up being almost beyond repair or like something that we would have to flip. And we put in several bids and lost. We even actually got a bid and actually were in the process of purchasing a home just to find out that it wasn't the right one for us due to disrepair.
The hardest part about having to tell a client no is I tell people that they've started placing the furniture in the house and they have fallen in love and that's their house, and along comes me and I have to tell them that they can't buy it, and that's heartbreaking. I always tell people that the fact that we're willing to do that really gives our program integrity, that we're not going to just put our clients in any house, that we're going to look for houses that are going to serve them well, that are structurally sound, and are going to be a good investment.
I feel like the whole time, like we were like really nervous that like something was gonna happen, because like the house isn't your house until the papers are signed and you get the keys. Like even up to the last moment, like everything can fall apart.
When you think about buying a house and just like all of the things that goes into it, it can feel really overwhelming. Working with NeighborWorks made the process feel a lot less stressful. You felt like I'm working with people who want me to find a great house for me and my family that we can live in forever. And it was just really nice to sort of like know you have that support system of people there for you.
I've been working with NeighborWorks clients for 3 years now. Two things I really love about NeighborWorks is, number one, they're inclusive. Most of my NeighborWorks clients, for some reason, they end up in places where they feel, in communities where they're really comfortable, they like it there, they feel accepted from the very moment they start classes. You know, and they learn about the process and all that, they feel they are part of the community.
It's like community building from the ground up. When you take an interest in families that are just starting out and need help to buy their first home, I mean, that's community building from the bottom up and has a big impact on the city.
I support NeighborWorks Lincoln because I'm committed to the organization and what it stands for. Providing housing in our community, particularly in our core areas of our city, is vitally important to revitalize, to give life to those communities, and it gives people a great place to live.
When you have an organization like NeighborWorks that comes in and does some pretty significant rehab or repairs, that starts the trickle-down effect, and hopefully neighbors take notice of that, and all of a sudden the window that's broken in their house, they want to take care of that. So that's really what we're hoping for, and to do that, I mean, it takes a community. It's more than just NeighborWorks Lincoln. I mean, it's a team effort. We need everyone to help us out in order to do it.
Thank you for joining us for our 7th annual Opening Doors Breakfast. As the new CEO of NeighborWorks Lincoln, it is my privilege to welcome you to this unique digital event. Even though we cannot be together in person this morning, the staff and volunteer leaders of NeighborWorks felt that it was still important to find a way to connect with all of our supporters. For those of you that took us up on our breakfast offer, I hope that you're enjoying it right now. For everyone else, we appreciate you logging in this morning from wherever you are and whatever you are wearing, no judgment here. Although COVID has forced us online this year, it hasn't dampened the spirit of our staff or partners who are still working hard every day to create affordable opportunities for first-time homeowners. And of course, this work would not be possible without you, our community partners, stakeholders, and supporters. It seems that the Lincoln community is always willing to answer the call to help support our critical work, and we hope that today's event will showcase some of the work we are doing across every Lincoln neighborhood and with hundreds of Lincoln families every year. 2020 has tested our community in so many ways, but it has also proven the importance of community, specifically the importance of stable, equitable, and inclusive neighborhoods. Mercifully, 2021 is just around the corner, and with that new beginning come new opportunities. This spring, the board and staff of NeighborWorks will launch an inclusive strategic planning process and roll up our sleeves to figure out what the organization needs to do to solve the affordable housing crisis in Lincoln. As you watch and listen to today's speakers, I hope that you will think about how you can help NeighborWorks tackle this generational challenge. To connect with these opportunities and help advance the organization, please use your smartphone to text the word neighborly to 41444 at any time during today's event. This will help us stay in touch with you throughout the year and alert you to all of the good things happening in housing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here this morning and for always showing up for Lincoln's neighborhoods. Your support helps NeighborWorks Lincoln open doors.
Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you for joining us in the NeighborWorks family for the 35th anniversary of NeighborWorks Lincoln and 7th anniversary of the opening breakfast. My name is Joe Shaw. I'm the Executive Director of the Lux Center for the Arts, and in my volunteer job, I'm the Board Chair of NeighborWorks Lincoln. I'm here this morning with Ashley Honmay, NeighborWorks Lincoln's Resources Development Director. Good morning, Ashley.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning to all of you. This is the 7th annual Opening Doors. So can you believe we've been doing this for 7 years? And again, we've nearly filled the Cornhusker Hotel ballroom. You just can't see it. But know that the energy is there. We welcome you to drop a comment in the chat box on the YouTube Live so that we can keep that momentum and energy going. It is because of all of you that we can put something together like this again year after year and serve around 200 families annually. So thanks for being here with us. Some of you ordered the breakfast, which allowed you to receive the Open Doors newspaper. Has a lot of good content if you want to learn a lot about the details of what we've done this last year. If you didn't receive a hard copy, it can also be found in the email that went out to you yesterday about this year's event. So I think, in the words of my own children, let's get started. Coming to us from the Holly Hamlet, we're in the Holly neighborhood, is Tim Renna and Kay Walter. They were this year's recipient for the NeighborWorks America 2020 4th. Recipients are those who invested their energies and talents to bring about a specific change to their area, which would ultimately leave a lasting positive impact. So coming to you live from the Holly neighborhood, Tim Renna, Kay Walter. Take a look.
I'm Kay Walter, and this is Tim Renna, and the two of us have been married now since 1983.
Kay and I are co-founders of the Holly Hamlet. We planted a seed. We didn't know exactly what it was going to be, and we stuck with it for 11 years, and it's our intention to finish out our lives here because this is the coolest place in all of Lincoln. We wouldn't have had the courage to do it if NeighborWorks hadn't been there first. They made the commitment to this block. They made the commitment to this neighborhood, and our investment chased theirs. But the only reason we chased theirs is that we knew that the NeighborWorks investment was secure and that it was going to be long-lasting.
We knew maybe 3 households in the whole neighborhood, and now I can name off 40 to 45 people that live in this area, and it's all because of the gardens.
Food really is the common denominator that brings us together. And so if you match that with the brilliant NeighborWorks vision of shelter for people who want to have their own home, the whole idea that you can get people a chance to own their own home and make an investment in their own place, that's just good for the neighborhood. It puts down roots for everybody. I mean, you feel more secure, you get to know the neighborhoods. This is how you build community. This is how you build neighborhood. This is how you build a hamlet.
So I think one of the successes that we've seen in this neighborhood is that if one person fixes up their home, or if we buy a problem property and turn it around, then everyone in the neighborhood starts doing the same thing. They start fixing up their own properties. They start caring about their neighbors. We're not into owning properties because we want to make money. We want a stable neighborhood, and we want to be able to offer affordable housing to people. And so that's one of the reasons why we have ended up mortgaging this house 3 times in order to help make that social investment.
Our dream, we hope we live long enough to see it, is that there are hamlets all over the city of Lincoln. That's what we want. In every neighborhood, rich, poor, whatever, we want hamlets everywhere.
Giving money to NeighborWorks makes a real difference to a community. We are planning on donating a property to them.
It has been a collaborative effort, and it would have never happened without our NeighborWorks partner. This is why we need NeighborWorks everywhere in Lincoln. This is why you should open up your checkbook. We need NeighborWorks. We want stability in our neighbors, and everybody from every walk of life is welcome. All you gotta be is a good neighbor.
The beauty of live television, right?
Good morning. I'm Mayor Lyrian Gaylor-Baird, and shortly after I became mayor, our office began receiving some delicious deliveries: fresh green beans, recently dug potatoes, jars of golden honey. You guessed it, a cornucopia of delights from the Holly Hamlet, a place that has become a point of pride in Lincoln. Congratulations to Tim and Kay on their well-deserved prestigious award and for shining a national light on our great neighborhoods and the abundant city we call home. I first met Tim at a TEDx Lincoln talk, during which he illuminated for everyone that the Holly Hamlet was about more than growing vegetables. It was about growing relationships. The address numbers on their houses made those on Tim and Kay's block neighbors by definition, but the shared experience of gardening together made them neighbors in spirit, the kinds of neighbors who shovel each other's sidewalks and keep an eye on each other's kids and pets. And these kinds of positive shared experiences among neighbors create strong neighborhoods. Strong neighborhoods, in turn, form the foundation of strong communities. You chose to take part in this virtual event this morning because you, like Tim and Kay, believe in the power of individuals to come together to improve the quality of life in our neighborhoods and to strengthen our wider community. As their example and that of NeighborWorks Lincoln show, when we come together with a shared vision and a common goal, we can make a real difference in service of a greater purpose. The global pandemic we are experiencing together has presented us with many opportunities to do just that. And the fact that you are here this morning proves that you are rising to the challenge to live with greater purpose and in service to higher ideals. We gather virtually this morning to support NeighborWorks Lincoln's mission to revitalize neighborhoods and support home ownership, keeping Lincoln a safe and prosperous community. And we come together to support community goals like high quality, affordable housing, knowing that many of our neighbors face deep and unprecedented economic challenges as a result of the pandemic. Knowing that maintaining and increasing the supply of safe, quality, affordable housing is central to our neighbors and our community's well-being. Thank you for making this our shared priority. And thank you to all of you who have helped shape and develop our city's affordable housing coordinated action plan that goes before the City Council on Monday. We are grateful to NeighborWorks and to all those community members, businesses, and organizations who contributed to this effort, led by our brilliant Urban Development Department team. Together, we have developed a comprehensive set of strategies to help address our growing housing needs. The plan contains an ambitious community-wide goal to provide 5,000 new or rehabilitated affordable housing units by the year 2030. And with incentivized redevelopment projects that are already creating more affordable housing units and more options for families through the use of housing vouchers, and with the partnership and leadership of NeighborWorks, we have hit the ground running. I know that I can count on all of you to help us keep pace towards our goal and turn our plan into more affordable housing realities for all our community members. Thank you for being here today to support NeighborWorks Lincoln and our shared value that everyone deserves to live in a safe home and in a great neighborhood, one like the Holly Hamlet, where the relationships and the fruits of those relationships continue to grow and make life better in Lincoln.
Thank you, Mayor Gaylor Baird. And thank you for your administration's emphasis on housing affordability. The city's proactive leadership on this topic has already put Lincoln's neighborhoods on a more inclusive and equitable trajectory. I'm eager to see what NeighborWorks Lincoln will accomplish in partnership with your staff post-COVID. For everybody tuned in today, I hope you're all enjoying the program so far, as well as your breakfast from Greenfields for those locals that took us up on the offer. But we know you are not all local. In fact, this year's virtual format has allowed us to engage with friends from as far away exotic locales as Cleveland, Ohio, Laramie, Wyoming, and San Francisco, California. Thank you all for joining us. We're thrilled to share this morning with you. If we were together at the Cornhusker, as has been the tradition, this is when I would have typically asked for another round of applause for Tim and Kay. That video, cut by Bad State Productions for us, showed perfectly why neighbors like Tim and Kay inspire and sustain us. Come walk the Holly Hamlet just north of our office sometime, and you will get it right away. Before I introduce our guest of honor, also not a local, I want to take an opportunity to recognize today's event sponsors. Collectively, they have helped us underwrite the cost of the event and made it so that all funds raised today will directly support the organization. And it is nice I don't have to measure any of these comments because they're all close partners of NeighborWorks Lincoln, and we'd recommend them to anyone. Capital Heating and Air Conditioning, Brester, and Kidwell are all contractors that we have supreme confidence in and have even sought out for particular projects. In addition to being great financial institutions, First National and Cornhusker Bank are also great community partners. Case in point, Cornhusker Bank was our signature sponsor at last year's opening doors, and a senior leader at First National is rolling onto our board of directors just this year. We trust HBE and Klein Williams so much that we have contracted with them to be our CFO and legal counsel respectively. And they have kept us in the black and out of court, also respectively. Vera Schneider at Unico keeps us insured, and we have worked closely with Russ Myers at Coldwell Banker NHS to successfully broker many of the home sales we've done, most recently at Antelope Square. Once those homes are sold, Home Services Title does a great job with the background work. What NeighborWorks does for Lincoln, the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority attempts for the entire state. And we appreciate both their leadership and partnership. Last but not least, Bob and Candy Campbell are consummate models of servant leadership, and we appreciate all they have done for NeighborWorks, including Bob's recently completed tour of service on our board of directors. Thank you, Bob. We are grateful for all of our 2020 Opening Doors event sponsors. Thank you. Now, let's shift gears to a conversation that I've been looking forward to for months. It is my pleasure to introduce you all to Dr. Mindy Thompson-Fullilove. Mindy is a social psychiatrist and an expert in the intersection of mental health and urban environment. So much so that the New York Times dubbed her the town shrink. Mindy has published books on urban decline and displacement in Root Shot, released in 2004, Urban Repair and Reconnection and Urban Alchemy, which is my personal favorite. That was released in 2013 and has now hit for the cycle with Main Streets, How a City's Heart Connects Us All. Together, these books are an impressive trilogy in exactly the expertise we needed in this moment to heal, repair, and empower urban neighborhoods and the families within them. Mindy was raised in Orange, New Jersey, where she still lives today, by the way, by her parents Maggie and Ernie Thompson, a mixed-race couple that were also, and coincidentally, civil rights icons and union organizers. In addition to raising a thoroughly unimpressed daughter through the tumult of the 1950s and 60s, Ernie and Maggie also led a successful campaign to desegregate the schools of Orange, New Jersey. That is a fair amount of pressure, I would say, for a young person, and Mindy turned that pressure into 3 degrees and a prolific research and writing career, including a bachelor's from Bryn Mawr, master's and doctorate degrees from Columbia, over 100 scholarly articles, and 7 books, including those 3 that I already mentioned. Mindy has been a board-certified psychiatrist since 1984, and in 2007 worked with her neighbors to start the Orange Free Public Library. In 2016, she was named a professor of urban policy and health at the New School in New York, where she remains today. And in between, she found time to serve with me on the National Board of Directors for the American Institute of Architects, which I can only assume is still a career highlight of hers. When the NeighborWorks staff talked about who we should invite to speak at opening doors, we collectively decided that we should find someone that can help us make sense of the moment that we're in. And boy, did we hit the mark with Mindy. Good morning, my friend. Is there anything in your background that I omitted that you want to share with the audience today, Mindy?
Free Public Library. That was founded in the 1890s. I co-founded the University of Orange, which is a free people's urbanism school. Yeah.
A total slip.
Oh no, it's
and a good blooper for the reel later.
Right. I would be really proud to found a library, but only a university, which doesn't have a library so far.
So I guess the joke then is, Orange, you're glad I didn't say the library. So
there you go.
We'll pivot to that. Let's start with a softball question this morning, Mindy, for everybody that's tuned in. How serious is the moment we find ourselves in today?
Well, it's terrible. It's a terrible moment. It's serious on every front because we have such a pile of worries.
Yeah. In one of our conversations leading up to today, I tried to reference the famous Martin Luther King quote about the moral arc of the universe being long but bending towards justice, and you checked me on that. Can you share maybe what you responded in that conversation with those here?
Well, frankly, I don't remember what I said. So let me just say what I want to say today. Is that all right, Wayne? I used that quote with my students in one of my courses, and they had to write their final paper on it. And it was sort of, do you think it does? And they were very ambivalent. Half of them said, I do. And half of them said, no, they didn't. So I think, at least according to young people coming through school at this point, it's up for grabs what's happening with the moral arc of the universe. I think part of the issue is that the moral arc of the universe is bent by us as people, and we have to really step up. And we're very busy fighting with each other and not stepping up. So I think that's where we stand. I don't know if that has anything to do with what I said before.
It was perfect. You basically in the conversation told me that not necessarily, or not so fast, and it put me into a mental tailspin for the rest of the week. So as you have historically done, Mindy, you check my reality and you get me on a more accurate course, and I appreciate that. So as we're kind of doing this infighting societally and arguing over the price of potatoes, is there a particular damage and trauma that's continuing to be inflicted on more vulnerable urban neighborhoods?
For sure. And that's the compounding of the compounding. So for example, many of the most vulnerable urban neighborhoods are occupied by immigrants or people who are minorities. And so, early in the 20th century, they were segregated. Then we invented redlining, which meant don't invest in those neighborhoods. Then we invented urban renewal, which meant tear down those neighborhoods. And then we just disinvested in those neighborhoods. So they floundered and we deindustrialized. So the people with few skills didn't have any jobs. So we come into this moment of COVID with cities that are weak because you can't have some neighborhoods in crisis and have a strong city. So not only are those neighborhoods in crisis and really suffering under the sort of twin hit of infection and shutdown, but also makes the whole city really vulnerable. So that's sort of 120 years of bad urban policies are really teaching us what we have created, which is partly what I said before, that we're busy fighting with each other. You can't break a society into little parts and then expect everybody to get along. It just doesn't happen. And so the question is, how are we going to repair the 120 years of breaking into parts?
I was fascinated in Main Street at your recount of an experience fairly early in your career while you were still teaching at Columbia. As I understand it, you formed a community resources group, or research group, excuse me. And you guys occupied this vacant building in Washington Heights, and you were surrounded by a situation that I think is somewhat analogous to what we're going through today. The AIDS epidemic, a widespread cocaine crisis, forced displacement throughout the community, gentrification, etc. Was there anything that you can pull from that moment and the team of researchers that you were working with out of the CRG in Columbia Heights there that might help us begin to conceptualize how we get through this?
That's a really great question, Wayne. I think what turned that situation around in just focusing on Washington Heights was that people organized. For example, we did a lot of work with a teen organization, an organization for teens, that actually worked with us on one of our studies of violence in the neighborhood. And then they said, so what was the answer? And we said, well, to control the violence, we have to do organizing. So they said, okay, we'll do that. And they got a grant to do organizing, and they sent the young people out. And they did a whole array of things that helped to calm the neighborhood. And that's just one example. So it was neighbors pulling together. The mayor talked about Holly Haven, have I got that right?
Holly Hamlet, yeah.
Holly Hamlet as neighbors pulling together. And that's what turned it around and made it better. But that's hard work, and you have to support that. And the more you can support that in any way you can support that, it is what gets us through.
Somewhere, Pat Anderson Fuentes, our community builder and lead organizer, is smiling. So thank you for making her day. I also was drawn in that anecdote or the analogy to the multidisciplinary nature of the staff that you discussed. As you know, I came from architecture and had kind of grown accustomed to being surrounded by a team that had the same exact background I had, the same degree for the most part, all working in the same direction. But when I came into community development 10 years ago in Cleveland, it opened my own mind to what was possible because I was all of a sudden the only architect on staff working with organizers, lawyers, accountants, finance people, public administration people. How does that multidisciplinary approach perhaps give us the tools necessary to attack the problems that we face?
I think that's such an important question and observation. I really appreciate it, Wayne. The Community Research Group was an organization that had educators and psychiatrists and public health people, so not quite as diverse as what you're describing, but but sufficiently diverse that we had to figure out how do we talk across discipline. What were the psychiatrists, what was our approach to the world, and then the public health people, what was their approach? And it's really different. And in a way, it's like the best case scenario of what we have to do in America of talking across difference. So I think that it's very important because nobody has the answer. Think about climate change. None of us knows what to do, really. Everybody's saying, well, let's do this, let's do that. Well, it's fine, but nobody knows. So we have to come up with a best case scenario. We have to talk to each other. And we need every single person in that conversation, including people who don't have degrees as you and I do, but who just are smart or not even smart, just kind, just want to come and be part of the conversation. Everybody has to show up for this.
It's a good reminder that everybody has a role to play. From our local residents and neighborhood leaders all the way up to, as we saw them today. So I think that's worth reiterating. What gives you optimism today? Where do you kind of draw from in order to keep going through these intense struggles?
I'm not so much into optimism or pessimism or hope or not hope. This is just for me, but part of what I learned in medical school was that you were just supposed to show up. So somebody had an illness you could treat easily, yay. But somebody had an illness you couldn't treat and they were going to die, you showed up. And it wasn't, sometimes I wept over people dying, but what I learned was to be there. And I think that if we put aside, we have to be optimistic. And it's hard to be optimistic in this moment, I think, but just show up and then just be in conversation with other people. I think it's more that it's that basic. Like we don't know the way, but we can tolerate that. If I say to you, look, I don't know, and you say to me, I don't know either, and then we say, well, let's get some other people. Let's get the mayor. Let's bring her into the conversation, and then we'll all just figure it out. That I think is just show up. And one friend of mine always says, if you have a problem and you don't know the answer, add more people. Let's just add more people. I think that's really the end, not optimism or pessimism. Like, well, we need some more people.
I think it's great. And definitely the teenagers, as you routinely told us all, that the teenagers are the ones that actually live in these places, know what's fun and what's not, and can help us celebrate our achievements when they occur. The other thing, towards the end of Main Street, you deeply explore this idea of planning to stay, is what you call it. Some others have called it place attachment. But you take a unique approach to planning to stay in that if we as neighbors come together and commit to each other that this is a place that we're committed to long term and that we're going to be here for better or worse, and hopefully just by doing so, that would result in better, not worse. So can you describe a little bit more? Am I right there? Are there other aspects of that concept that are worth leaving today with?
I think it's the crucial concept that sort of think big picture as a human species. I hope we're planning to stay, but also as just somebody living in a neighborhood planning to stay, somebody living in a city planning to stay. And Bill Morrish, who taught me about this concept, who's the inventor of it, said that then we have to ask two questions: what brought us here, and what do we need to be able to stay? So I think it sets up the right conversation. It's a really exciting conversation. Like, oh, okay, we need, as we said in Orange, we need a free people's university, and so that's been a great thing to have, just because it's a place for problem solving. So I think it just really starts the right conversation. And remember what you were asking me about hope or optimism. I think the planning to stay conversation sets us in that direction of, when we say, what do we need? We easily start to add people, and then we get moving, and then we feel better.
Forward movement and momentum, I think, is really the goal there. Obviously, NeighborWorks has a critical role here in Lincoln which I'm sorry that we can't show you around today. But I feel like I've learned so much from your perspective that Lincoln benefits indirectly. The work that NeighborWorks does obviously is focused on household stability, accessible housing, and familial economic recovery. Anything about those aspects of metrics of recovery that we should be keeping in mind, and how relevant or non they are in us building back together.
This is an aside, but I have had the chance to visit Lincoln, although I hope to get to come again. And my book, House of Joshua, was published by the University of Nebraska Press in Lincoln. And so I always give to Lincoln on Lincoln Day, give to Lincoln Day. So I'm a fan of your city. And I'm glad NeighborWorks is there and doing that work, because it's quite, the list of things that you talk about is quite crucial. Our cities have been fractured by very bad urban policies. And if we're going to repair them, those are the things we have to do. We have to work with families, we have to work in neighborhoods, and we have to have the whole city thinking about what kind of city would it like to be. I think, as a psychiatrist, I'm more into feelings than metrics. So I would like people to be feeling like, I'm going to stay. I'd like people to feel committed. And I think NeighborWorks is calling on people to feel that and to be that.
Well, that's as good a place as any to pause the conversation, Mindy. I will thank you for joining us, and remind everybody that's tuned in that Mindy and I will be back at the end of the event to finish with some chat, finish this particular conversation, and answer some of the questions you provide. So please use the YouTube chat feature on your screens to ask any questions you have for Mindy, and we will get to those at the end of the event. Similar to a real event where we'd be lingering around and you guys could come up and ask your questions. We wanted to make that opportunity available even virtually. So thank you, Mindy. I will also point out that the newspaper you've all received, either physically or digitally, depending upon your preference. This is the open door. On the bottom, there's a voucher, not only for a free cup of coffee from any of the mill locations, but also a voucher at Francie and Finch for $10 off any one of Mindy's titles. So please drop in there this holiday season, pick up some gifts, some books for the loved ones in your life, and pick up one of Mindy's titles. Appreciate it very much, Mindy. With that, I will turn it over to the NeighborWorks Board President and Executive Director of the Lux Center for the Arts, Joe Shaw, and Ashley Honmay, our NeighborWorks Lincoln Resource Development Manager, to bring us home. Take it away, guys.
Well, thank you, Wayne, and thank you, Dr. Fuller. I really appreciated that frank discussion, about our current situation that we're in, the need for more dialogue, more discussion, and frankly, more neighborliness. The phrase that really struck me from your conversation was planning to stay. And that's what NeighborWorks does. They create neighborhoods where people are planning to stay. That's why NeighborWorks work is so important to me. We do community building. We work with neighborhood groups to lobby and for neighborhoods and residents at City Hall. We work directly in the Clinton neighborhood, the Holly Malone neighborhood, Everett neighborhoods to strengthen the neighborhood bond. And that's about planning to stay. And the other way that we strengthen community is by providing first-time homeowner classes to literally hundreds of people throughout Lincoln have taken these classes. And then some of these people were able to put them into a NeighborWorks home and provide first-time homeowners assistance. So we are really working on making neighborhoods in Lincoln for people who are planning to stay. That is really a wonderful phrase. I love it. And in the next video, we're going to share 3 stories of 3 families who are planning to stay. And here's a glimpse inside their homebuyer story.
We have been together 12 years. And we knew eventually, you know, we wanted a home. We didn't want to rent forever. We realized we needed something that we could raise a family in, something where he could run and play and just do all the things that a little boy needs to do. And to come into NeighborWorks and have them more than willing to help us and accommodate us and walk us through this entire process, it's been priceless. I mean, we would not be where we are without the NeighborWorks program.
The horrible part about living in an apartment was that I was living in a place where I knew it wasn't mine. We could never say this is our home. And we began to outgrow it. My mom never owned a home, but I said that before I died, I was gonna own a home for my children.
Before we were living at this house, we lived in a duplex, and it was about 600 square feet.
Even though there was only two of us, we had outgrown the space, and it seemed great at the time, but you know, we grew.
It just wasn't where we wanted to raise our son, so we started to think about buying a house, but we just wouldn't have been able to have that money. NeighborWorks was able to help us with down payment, so we're really thankful for that he has a good place to grow up.
No matter what or where we would buy, we knew that there would be some pieces that would need to be made a little more accessible for us. We went in and we had to widen, I believe, 4 doors. That way my wheelchair could get through there easily. So just those little things that are, in the grand scheme of things, they're small, but for us, they're huge. It's so crucial because there's such a need within the disability community to have a home. We've talked about it so much. This is our forever home.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
They made that possible with the accommodations for the wheelchair and whatnot. And I wanted Kylie to be able to have peace of mind that, you know, we're not going to need to change things in the future.
We've got everything we need here.
The NeighborWorks education was really fundamental in establishing the opportunity, the avenue of what being a first-time home buyer is, and looking into what it means to have a mortgage and how those breakdowns are. If nothing else, the education that comes with being a homeowner is invaluable.
The NeighborWorks classes are amazing. They teach you everything you would ever need to know about buying a home, finances, debt to credit ratio, about being a good neighbor. But the one thing that stuck out to me was leaving your porch light on at night. When you leave your porch light on at night, it lets your other neighbors know that you're friendly. It was that light that could possibly save whether it be you and your children at home or them in their home.
The work that NeighborWorks does is important not just to the individual families that they're able to help, but also to the community as a whole. A lot of the work that they do is revitalizing old neighborhoods and making them places that families want to live. Enabling families to move into homes and have that investment in their neighborhood and in their community helps the city of Lincoln as a whole. And they enabled us to buy our home, but they also have enabled us to build a community.
The best part about NeighborWorks is that it really is about being a part of Lincoln's community and developing the city of Lincoln from the inside out.
When you own a home, it's like you do own a part of your community and you want to see it be better. I feel like I want to be a part of that. This is me, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long haul. Madison Street is a part of me as much as I am a part of it.
To call this our home, I never knew that I would have so much pride in where we are now. And that's, again, priceless.
To be able to say, hey, we're coming home, giving our family a home is so huge. NeighborWorks was a huge part of having that dream community for us.
Wow, Joe. It doesn't matter how many homebuyer stories I hear, there's still something striking that comes out of each one, you know? And at the end of the day, we're all just people. I'm sure the majority of us have that place in our house that's the catch-all for all the stuff that needs put away. You know, and then there's the things that we take for granted, like maybe the width of the doorway. So I think out of these videos this year, that was my big takeaway, is Shiloh saying sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference. And anytime we host a fundraiser event, I can't help but feel that way. You know, each of us gives a little bit to these families, to the affordable housing movement, and it adds up to mean something big for our city. And so I just ask you today to please join us by making a donation to the NeighborWorks Lincoln's Opening Door Giving campaign, so that we can help more deserving families find a home for their families, for whatever reason that can make their lives better. So Joe, I'm just going to ask you what your takeaway was from that film.
Well, the thing that was my takeaway from this film is that there's such a great diversity of people that we help. And whether it be someone with disabilities or someone, there's just all kinds of families. And we're helping them all, we're helping them all find a place to plan to stay, right? And be a part of a neighborhood. And once that home is established in that neighborhood, that leads to more neighborhood pride, and it leads to more neighborhood development and more neighborhood, just the sense of living in a neighborhood with other people.
Yeah, just again, that planning to stay, and so you take care of what's yours. And, homes right now in the Lincoln market are very hard to find for our home buyers. Sometimes there's just a handful on the market. Maybe they're not a quality home that we even feel good helping them buy. And so we really work with the homeowners to make sure that, either we can provide the repair rehab services to help them have a good home to live in. And then also even just finding one on the market, which is also a good thing with our new construction program, that we're able to adopt these properties that can be revitalized and turned over and basically provide more home ownership. If you out there, now's the time to give. If you haven't already, text Neighborly to 41444 to make a donation. Or you can visit our website at nwlincoln.org/donate. Joe, another question that I had for you is just, we all have reasons why we give. So you've been a donor for a few years. Why is it that you choose to make a gift to NeighborWorks?
Well, I'm a relative newcomer to Lincoln. I've lived in Lincoln for 6 years now. I've been a part of NeighborWorks for 5 years, because when I moved to Lincoln, I had the privilege of being able to move into a NeighborWorks home that my partner already owned. And I got to see this beautiful neighborhood, the Malone Holly neighborhood, with a beautiful park, all of these beautiful NeighborWorks homes. The NeighborWorks headquarters is here in this neighborhood. And I got to see the difference that NeighborWorks has made in this community. And in my former life, I was a city councilman and a planning commissioner in another city in California. And so moving into this neighborhood that's been so successfully transitioned into a really wonderful, livable space near downtown, for all kinds of families. And it's in one of the most diverse neighborhoods in all of Lincoln. And so I was so happy to find this place. And I'm so happy to have found NeighborWorks, who's doing all this great work. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because NeighborWorks created this wonderful neighborhood for me, and this wonderful place for me to be.
I like that you bring up, again, just the neighborhood aspect. And I know before, when I visited with you, we talked about the different shops down North 27th Street. And so, again, I just think about how many people came to the table to really invest, in this area. The Antelope Square projects. One big project we had this year was actually doing an impact measurement. So a 10-year measurement of how this neighborhood has changed. And we had the opportunity to, again, just talk to our home buyers and ask them what it was like to live in that area. And many of them mentioned just being able to walk, feeling safe, being able to garden with their family, and they're choosing to stay because they're happy here. And again, that was thanks to you, our donors out there providing home ownership and the resources required to help serve our mission, which is to revitalize neighborhoods, support home ownership, and keep Lincoln a safe and prosperous place to be and to live. So,
the community building aspect of NeighborWorks is particularly, I'm particularly a fan of the community building aspect of it. All the diverse restaurants and businesses that are along North 27th Street, NeighborWorks works with all the business owners there to make sure that we do activities that highlight them and bring people to this neighborhood. I remember being, a couple of years ago, being on the bridge over 27th Street and having a wonderful dinner provided by the restaurants on North 27th Street with just this diverse group of people from the neighborhood and just having a wonderful time. And that's part of what we talk about when we want to talk about community building and what we're doing to bring neighbors together.
Yeah, which I think is important that we have those three main programs that we offer. Community building really helps bring our investments together. So sure, we can go build a home, but do we know those neighbors? Do we know that neighborhood well enough to serve them well? And so our community building program really kind of ties that all together. And then, what better way than through food, right? Because
Absolutely.
I think anyone can connect through a nice meal.
And that's why we've been doing this fundraising breakfast, and we're not able to all get together and have breakfast this morning, but the sense of camaraderie and the gratitude we have for all the people who believe in NeighborWorks and are donating to NeighborWorks this morning, which I want to remind you, you can text neighborly to 41444, and that will really help us do the work that NeighborWorks is doing.
And really, it's through this one event that provides the private donations that are needed to keep our operations going throughout the year. So all those activities that we spoke of.
You talked earlier about housing prices rising in Lincoln, and as the housing prices rise in Lincoln, it makes it harder for NeighborWorks to do its work. We have to find homes that we can afford to purchase. We have to find vacant lots that we can afford to purchase so that we can turn them into homes for people that need them.
Yeah, and that just gives you viewers another way you can become involved. If you have ideas for how we can continue to develop in these core neighborhoods, we offer an opportunity for you to connect with us, see if there's a committee that you can tie into, if you know about land opportunities. All of that is very helpful, especially when we're a team of 8 and we have great board members, we have great committee members, and we need as many people invested in this as possible because 8 staff isn't too much to spread our workload.
Yeah, that's another way that you can donate to NeighborWorks is by getting involved in the work that NeighborWorks does by being a volunteer. That's really important too.
So as of now, we have raised $26,359. This campaign does remain open until December 20th, or 22nd, excuse me. So you can really choose to make a gift anytime now between then. And we just offer you to stay connected with us and keep the conversation of affordable housing moving forward.
Thank you, Ashley. And thank you all for being with us this morning. We really had a good time with you. I'm going to make sure I'm at the right place where I'm supposed to be.
We had a special thank you.
Yes. So one of the things I want to do this morning is to thank 3 outgoing board members who've done an amazing job, Bob Campbell, Jeremy Memming, and Ann Hirschfeld. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Ann Hirschfeld, who is so dear to my heart. She's my neighbor. She lives 2 blocks away. She's also lived in a NeighborWorks home. She is driven by the mission of NeighborWorks. She has been a board member that is inquisitive and who asks questions. She champions board training for board members, and that has led to lots of really good things at NeighborWorks. And Ann, I just want you to know that you're dear to my heart. The board is going to miss you, and you played such an important role in the places where NeighborWorks is today. I'm also now going to turn you over to a film from Diane from the Indian Village Neighborhood Association. She's going to talk about our wonderful board member, Jamie Miller.
Hi, I'm Diane Volkoviak. Both personally and on behalf of the Indian Village Neighborhood Association, I want to thank Jeremy Memming for all that he has done, not just for NeighborWorks, but also the Indian Village neighborhood in which he lives. Following NeighborWorks' commitment to building healthy communities, Jeremy has served in our neighborhood association for many years, several of them as our president. He brought knowledge, talent, dedication, and energy, all wrapped up in a generous can-do personality which never sought attention for himself. He used his talents to create logos, flyers, and newsletters. He designed and maintained our website. He has always been there to help with neighborhood activities such as garage sales and block parties and the 4th of July Kids Parade. He's dug a lot of dirt at the Arapahoe Community Garden, and he's always there to help a neighbor. As all of you know, Jeremy is someone that you can count on. Through his efforts at NeighborWorks, in his neighborhood, and beyond, Jeremy has made and continues to make a positive difference in our community. From all of us, thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy. I know you and I have also worked closely together. You've helped Morgan and I with marketing activities and have always just really been there in whatever ways we needed. I would also like to take a moment to thank Bob Campbell. Bob, you've done so much for NeighborWorks. You've served on our committees. You've helped meet with us individually anytime we had a question or a call, and really helped get our resource planning on track. I appreciate everything that you've brought to NeighborWorks. Additionally, you and I tend to connect over what homeownership means for families. You know, when children have stability in a home, their learning, you know, it's so much better. If you think when a kid switches a school, there's learning blocks. So when they switch a class, that class might not be learning what they had been learning at the previous school. And so there becomes those gaps in the learning. And that's something that we've talked about is in our neighborhoods, if kids have stability, they're in that same school, they trust their space, they know people around them, they feel safe, and they're able to learn and really build better lives for themselves. So what better way can we serve our neighborhoods and be a good neighbor than to take care of the children? So I've always appreciated our connection and our shared view with that. So thanks again, Bob, for all you've done, and we look forward to working with you in the coming year. We didn't quite get rid of Bob yet. He's agreed to stay on as a resource committee member.
That's good.
Yes.
Thank you, Bob.
So thanks, Bob.
So finally, I would like to thank all of you for being here this morning with us. I want to thank our board members who stepped up for the Opening Doors Breakfast and provided a $2,500 match. So if you still want to donate, the board members will match the $2,500 for the next few minutes. Text neighborly to 41444, and I'm going to invite you to stay on the line and watch the question and answers with Dr. Fullilove and our CEO, Wayne Mortensen. I can't wait to hear more of that discussion. So we're signing off for now, and we'll see you later on the streets.
Thank you.
Okay, so what are we going to do with these new houses that we're working on?
Build them.
I'm hoping Bill will pick the colors again.
Yeah.
Oh, you bet. I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
So did we pull it off?
Yeah, I think so. Our supporters were great. And we got to add another Zoom to their day.
Guys. Hey, they really are.
It's such a weird time. Everyone just sits on their computers all day, but it was nice
Hey
of
guys,
everyone.
I think we're still live.
Oh, yes, that does appear to be the case.
Ooh, we should really sign off then.
Yeah, that'd be a really good idea. How do we get out of this thing?
Well, you know, a good thank you always works.
Yeah, we're just going to act like, keep the scroll rolling. Thank you. Your gifts allow us to keep our doors open and to continue to serve our mission.
Community building couldn't do what we do without the support of the community and city staff in all the collaborations that we do to improve, inform, and celebrate our city. And it takes a village and your support. Thank you.
And as the loan coordinator here at NeighborWorks Lincoln, it's just so great to provide down payment assistance to 60 to 70 households each year. Thank you.
As the operations officer, I'm so appreciative of the many ways that you, our supporters, help us with all of our programs and services. Thank you.
And as a rehab construction manager, it's amazing to watch first-time home buyers move into affordable and structurally sound homes. So thank you.
Thanks for giving us the support we need to continue this work. We're truly motivated by your support to give our best every single day to see our neighborhoods thrive.
The NeighborWorks Lincoln team has done such a great job in less than ideal circumstances this year, and your support is critical to ensuring that affordable homes are created across Lincoln. Every year we add 7 to 12 newly constructed homes and as many as 80 rehabs in every neighborhood across the city.
So what now?
How about a virtual happy hour?
It's 10 a.m., Marty. Okay, maybe happy hour, guys. But first, I think I have to moderate this Q&A with Dr. Fullilove.
All right, well, we'll be here.
Well, feel free to join us for the virtual happy hour, or if you're interested in staying online for the Q&A, please stick around. But this ends our annual meeting. Thank you for joining us and playing such a critical role in allowing NeighborWorks Lincoln to serve our neighbors.
By the way, where's Danny?
I think he's checking one of our new constructions on North 29th Street.
That figures. Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are back in the lobby with Dr. Mindy Thompson-Fullilove, the city shrink, or the town shrink, I guess is the correct title. Mindy, thanks so much for being with us today. We wanted to give people an opportunity to ask their own questions because, you know, we probably have better interviewers in our network than me. And so I've got a couple of lead off here, and then we're going to mix some in. So again, thanks for your forbearance, and for you at home, forgive me for looking at my phone. That's where the questions are coming in. Got a lot of good positive feedback on YouTube. People are just generally really interested and excited about what's happening. I'm curious, Mindy, how your experience with family therapy kind of transitioned into your, I don't know if it's a second career, but the evolution of your career into urban analysis.
Family therapy is based on understanding the family as a system.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's pretty logical to go from the family as a system to the neighborhood as a system to the city as a system to the world as a system. So and many family therapists have evolved to treat larger social systems, mm-hmm. like organizations.
Yeah.
And so I'm like them, like I'm on that path, just treating larger social systems.
So in Main Street, you talk, you get into some morphological or kind of geospatial analysis, which I, really dug. But you talk about the street as a line, a box, and a circle. And the circle you drew is about a half mile from the center of the Main Street, the quote unquote Main Street. And you talk about the importance of connectivity and density and residential stability. How can we as developers work with the city to reinforce our main streets through that surrounding context that you feel is so important?
I would say that the way to start, actually, because I don't know how cold it is and how snowy, but it's, on a nice day, walk around both the main streets, the civic, in the sense of civic and commercial centers, and that circle of urban tissue around the main street. And, kind of zigzag back and forth. It's very informative. And and you know, in the Main Street book, we talk about stroll and scroll. So take a stroll and then take some photos and then make a scroll about it in the sort of Japanese sense. So do that. And then, you know, part of what you're looking for is what's the connectivity? Are there things that interrupt, that make it hard to get to Main Street?
Right.
What about the density? What about parking lots? Parking lots are, everybody thinks they need more parking for Main Street, but the last thing you need for Main Street is more parking.
Yes.
So what about parking lots? Are they breaking up the space too much? So you want to look for all those things, and you'll get lots of ideas. And plus, it just makes you feel so interested and connected. I think it's great for civic pride.
Yeah.
There's so many things out there that we don't really think about.
Katie asks, which of the 3 books that I referenced, so Root Cause, Urban Alchemy, or Main Street was the most fun to write?
It's not Root Cause, it's Root Shock.
Root Shock, sorry.
Yeah. You don't have to remember the titles of my books. Which was the most fun to write? The most fun to study was Main Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I went to 178 cities and visited their main streets, and some of them had more than one main street. And you know, like walking around Tokyo, walking around Kyoto, Johannesburg, it was just so interesting. So that was the most fun to study. It was really hard to write because, you know, after 178 cities, I was so confused. I'd seen so many main streets. I was like, well, what's the point?
Oh man, how do I get a job where I can just visit global cities for a living?
You know, right? Yeah, it's a hard job, but somebody had to do it. That turned out to be me.
Well, I really like in some of them how you were joined by friends or colleagues, or in one case, in the Cleveland examples, I believe your daughter was with you, which I thought was kind of fun. How much does having somebody that has been in this place before, in this experience of the content, how much does that help you see a place differently, if at all?
If you're with somebody from the place, you see it differently than if you're with 2 people who aren't from the place.
Right.
But both are really interesting. And sort of, if you're with somebody who's from the place, they want to tell you what they think. But if you're just with yourself and another outsider, you just think about what you want to think about. And so both are very valuable. I like to do it both ways.
John asks about the, apparently has read the book already. You identify 3 root causes of our current crisis: inequality, ecological damage, and inertia. How, in your experience, have those 3 things combined to undercut neighborhood recovery efforts?
Oh, it's such a great question. I think that it's like trying to do neighborhood recovery is like trying to run a marathon in concrete shoes. And so we're really hampered. And, you know, sort of at every turn, it gets in the way. You know, think about the problem of money. I know you're trying to raise money today.
Right.
Trying to raise money for neighborhood redevelopment is really hard across the board, the whole United States, and neighborhoods need money. So it's really hard in every way. You know, therefore, what do we do about it? And I just want to emphasize that I think people getting together and saying, we plan to stay here, so that they feel energized, like, oh, this is ours. We're going to keep it. Thank you. And let's make it better. But especially if if Lincoln can say, we are Lincoln, every neighborhood in this city is Lincoln, and they're all going to be great. Everybody should have a great house in a great neighborhood. Not just one great neighborhood, but a whole city of great neighborhoods. Right. I think if that could be the vision in Lincoln, that would be great. And you know what? There is a certain collectivity in Lincoln, like the Give to Lincoln Day. It's very special. I don't get an email from any other city that says, give to our city, you know, give to any of these organizations in our city. So there's something very special going on in Lincoln that is going in that direction of breaking through these barriers.
Well, I will.
All three of these are barriers of isolation. So if you can break isolation, you can knock off the concrete shoes and start running.
I will relay your compliment to the manager about the gift to Lincoln
Yeah.
Day while I'm here. In my last stop, Mindy, obviously still on affordable housing, we raised millions of dollars to restore the tree canopy. The art museum raised more than $400 million for their expansion. But raising money for things like community organizing and affordable housing was like trying to push a boulder up a hill. So is there, obviously that's not a unique experience in our kind of metropolitan life. Why do you think people are so resistant to want to engage financially or just in terms of giving of their self to these larger efforts that are more systemic in nature?
Well, one would have to say that any existing system benefits some people, not all people. And so the issue is that how do you expand who is benefited? And how do you help people see, okay, it benefits you, like maybe somebody they donated 100 million so their name could be on the art museum. So that benefits them and their family, but doesn't benefit the whole city. So how do you help people see it's not enough to think about yourself, that we are all interdependent? You probably have read about the social life of trees, that all trees are connected under the soil by fungi. And they talk to each other through the fungus network. That's their telephone system.
I just heard this on the Daily a couple days ago, actually.
Yeah. Beautiful article in the New York Times Magazine about the social life of trees. So we're all connected like that. And, if you cut down one tree, it doesn't disturb the whole forest. The forest can repair itself. But if you clear cut the forest, the forest can't come back. So we have to think like that. And so we need a new consciousness. How do we have ecological consciousness? And you know what, Wayne, I always argued when I was on the board with you at the American Institute of Architects, that I thought architects had really, as a profession, a unique awareness of the ecosystem. So I believe you as an architect can bring that awareness from your profession to the city.
Unfortunately, I'm a terrible architect.
I don't think you have to be a good architect. You have to understand.
Stephanie asks, what can an individual like myself do to help revitalize neighborhoods? She lives apparently in a relatively stable, peripheral neighborhood, but wants to do what she can to help those in greater need.
Well, I would say give Wayne a call after this meeting, and he'll put you to work.
Good plug, Stephanie. All right, thank you. Thank you for inquiring about that. What are some policies and strategies that we can use to continue to make our neighborhoods more equitable and resilient? That question comes from Alan.
One of the policies that really, I think, reveals the paradigm we're working from is the redlining policy. And the project Mapping Inequality, which is at the University of Virginia at Richmond, has put all the old redlining maps up for all of us to study. And not that, so here's the thing, redlining said that we would divide the city basically into 4 types of neighborhoods. So, and they were divided as sort of a 2x2 table: white, non-white, new, old. So new buildings for white people got the green light, and old buildings for people of color, for non-white people, got the red light. So how do we start to get out of, people might say, well, we don't do redlining anymore, but we have that paradigm. So you'll see tons, you look in New York City, millions and billions of dollars are going into fancy apartments for extremely wealthy people. And they can't get any money for affordable housing. So how do we get out of that paradigm? How do we say, no, we're going to put money into new buildings for poor people, or let's switch it up. Let's don't have that paradigm anymore. So I think that's the most important thing. And then the task is to sit down and say, what are all the policies that keep us locked into that paradigm?
And knowing, of course, obviously that power defends itself, right? And that
power defends
it's
itself,
incredibly
right?
difficult thing to reverse inertia or momentum in the wrong direction, right?
Except that in this moment, we have to change because climate change and the collapse of millions of species are posing an intolerable threat to our species. And we have to change to some extent. So this redlining paradigm is part of the harms that are harming the whole ecosystem.
Right.
So how do we say, okay, time to do something different? Even people in power are, for example, divesting from oil and gas,
right?
Because they're upset about the climate. So people in power will say, yes, in order to survive I understand the long term, and I'm doing this for myself, but also for my great grandchildren. We have to change.
Yeah, I think we have covered most of the questions, if not all. And I'll just tell everybody that's still watching, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. But Mindy, my last question is from one of your presentations. And I think it was really highlighted in Urban Alchemy. You said that your father taught you, and that is Ernie Thompson, right? That's the famous Ernie Thompson, labor rights organizer and civil rights activist. He taught you the importance of knowing what you're for. What can we glean from that? And that lesson then became one of the principles. I think there were 9 principles in alchemy that you used to kind of apply as a kit of parts to repairing cities. So, what is that kind of phrase meant to you over the years, and how should we be thinking about determining what we're for?
It's such a crucial concept that he was always trying to tell me, as a teenager, I always hated everything, how teenagers are. And he would always say, don't hate so much. What are you for? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, Dad. But I didn't catch on until later. That thing by Mark Twain, when I was 17, I thought my father was an idiot. When I was 21, I was surprised how much he had learned. Like,
Yeah,
I really identify with that. So Stephen Covey has it as one of his habits of highly effective people. Start with the end in mind. Where are you going? So finding what you're for is that. I had a remarkable experience with this. We're working in a neighborhood in Philadelphia, doing some community engagement work, and we asked the people there to talk about what they were for, do an exercise. And at that time, there were 2 factions, and they were bitterly battling each other over what was going to happen in the neighborhood. But as we listened to them, it was obvious to us as outsiders that they had the exact same values, that they wanted, they valued family, they valued community, they wanted neighbors to talk to each other, they loved the neighborhood. It was remarkable. And what happened by the end was that the factions solved their problem and came together and had a common plan. And that came out of, I think, finding what they were for. They were for the same things. They had different tactics, but they wanted the same end. So they talked about their tactics and the strategy and worked that out, which is why I think it's so important for all of us to think what we're for. We're not for the end of the human species. We're not for a million other species going away. We're not for wildfires ravaging the polar regions because of climate change. We're not for those things. We're for our great-grandchildren and our great-great-grandchildren having opportunity to have a good life as we have had. So if we feel that in our hearts, then we can put aside some of our differences and say, and in fact, we could say we have to put aside some of our differences. We have to talk to each other, because what we're for is not, we're not for fighting with each other. We're for a good neighborhood and a good house for everybody. How do we get there?
Well, Well, we're not going to do better than that. Dr. Mindy, thank you so much. I've always known since we first met what you're for. Hopefully, I've been just clear in reverse. And NeighborWorks Lincoln, I think,